okay, that are interested in wanting to know how to eat properly and how to eat based on a very small income, how to eat properly on a small income. We would like to have that literature there so that way it would benefit them and the community alike. But it takes a collaborative effort to make sure that we have viable products within our stores throughout community governments. We have to come together with those four entities that I mentioned, which is the 501c3, the clergy, the representatives, constituents, and as well as the storefront owners. We don't come together in terms of community governance to get that information out there, to realize that we are a food desert, to look at 115th Street Mall and say, well, wow, we need a vegetable store or what have you. We need a store that's going to provide the good foods that we can nurture on. Then we need to come together and we need to take a look at that and make sure that we provide those things within the community. We need to provide those things within the community. We need to create that relationship with the municipalities and make sure that we're a strong voting bloc, that we can go forth and request that we get the literature, not just from the city, but a lot of the literature we can produce ourselves. But the vegetable garden, we can produce that vegetable garden right here within Chicago, employ people and get that information out through pamphlets so that parents will understand that we need to start feeding our children correctly so we can start from the ages of 3 all the way up to 9 and make sure that we understand the process of eating properly and why it's important for our survival and extend life. Thank you.
Okay, for our next series of questions, not that you all have violated this at all, but we're going to actually, for our next series of questions, we're going to move our time down just slightly so that we will have 1 minute for the answers, 1 minute to wrap up. That way we'll be able to get through more questions and more time. My next question, actually, is from me. We are all here to listen to your plans for the future. And it sounds like many of you have thought through the problems in our community significantly. However, I would probably imagine that one of the things that people would like to know is this question. What have you done in your life now that would give us an indication of who you would be when you become an alderman, or if you become an alderman, to address the problems facing our community? And you can start that question.
Thank you. That's a very good question, and thanks for asking it. For starters, I started a job center on 107th in Wentworth. The address is 148 West 107th Street. That was established almost 3 years ago. And we primarily specialize in ex-offenders, finding them jobs. We seek out companies that hire ex-offenders that know how to exercise valuable tax credits. That's one of the things. Also, I established a variety store in the Roseland area, also on the same block, 107th, and Wentworth, to create jobs for those that are, unhireable, people that have been out of the workforce for a period of time, and people that just are still developing their work skills. That's it.
Thank you.
Well, as I say, I have the name the COCH for a reason. I coach baseball and I've been involved with youth since 1980. This is 2011. That's 31 years. I've been involved with youth because I believe our youth is our future. So I've invested my time without pay into shaping and molding the minds of young people. And I've watched young black males, more importantly, as a result of being a part of my program, go to college, get college degrees, and successful out in the real world. So I will continue what I've done, being involved with youth and the social and economic condition of our community, because if we can sit here and talk about running for aldermen and candidates for office and business, if we don't change the mindset of our young people and we don't change the mindset of our mindsets, we're going to continually lose out in this game. And it's time for some changes and new voices in our leadership, and that's why I'm running as a candidate for alderman in this 34th ward.
Life is an investment, and we have to invest in life. We have to invest in ourselves. We have to invest in our families, our community, and society. Without that, we're not going to make it. We can't stress basing of community governance. But I started out in business. Okay, I've owned customized cuisine for a number of years. Got to $300,000 a year. But I now work for Chartwell Thompson. I worked for Aramark for 6 years also, which is a 51% black-owned firm. And I appreciate that because you honestly learn what diversity is all about. Now, we just loaned 2 minority vendors, okay, $1 million. And I love that company because, see, that says something about what we can do as blacks and as a people and as a community governance. But with that said, I'm a member of the LSC here at Dunn. I believe in educating our children. I'm a member of LCME Church, where you're at now. I'm with the Boy Scouts of America with Mr. Dwayne Hunter, who's a member of our community as well. And we just established a Boy Scout troop, or reinitiated here, which is Troop 707 and 3707. But that's to create ethics and morals within our young men. We also have a Girl Scouts troop here that consists of 68 strong. And I think that's vitally important when we can educate our young men in terms of ethics and morals, because we've lost a very large portion of our generation to education, and not just education, but we've lost them to drugs and we've lost them to jail. So we need to start with our youth and make sure that we educate them appropriately, and that's one of the things that I'm committed to doing.
Thank you. Since you mentioned ethics, be a nice segue into our next few questions here. It is no secret that the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois have, let's just say, struggled with issues of ethics. We know that the city council has a significant amount of power and authority when it comes to, say, where contracts go for the city and a variety of other city services. In terms of ethics, what if you were elected to the city council this year? What would you do to change the ethical climate of the city council of Chicago, legislatively or personally? What would you do?
Well, I have no intentions of rubber stamping. I would like to bring all bills back to the community, to the constituents for evaluation and determine, okay, if it's good for our children now and in the future, if it's good for the community. I think that's only fair. That's representation for taxation. I would like to bring forth, I mentioned the Chamber of Commerce, but I would surely shoot for a collaborative effort amongst community governments, amongst the constituents, and I've worked hard to establish the Roseland Community Organization, neighborhood organization, since the inception. And I think that's one of the goals of the Roseland Community Neighborhood Organization. And I worked hard to do that, and I have no intentions of stopping now. But I would love to bring forth that effort, that collaborativeness, so that we can become economically structured, become a very strong voting bloc, and demand what we want. Because if we don't demand it, we will not get anything that we want from the city council. We have neighboring concerns such as state passes between the 9th and the 34th Ward, and we need to take a look at some of those things. We need to stop and take a look at those things as a group, look at crime prevention councils, not the crime prevention councils, but when we look at those things, we need to look at those and come up with absolute solutions. And when I say absolute, that means it's a collaborative effort. Not that anything is perfect, but we need to take a look at those and come up with solutions for our water. If we don't do it, nobody else will.
I would be probably the strongest voice the city ever had for ethics, as far as the city council and government of our $6.1 billion tax dollars in city expenditures. I would propose the strongest laws ever to make sure that the hiring of city employees is reflective of the balance of the city. There's no way that you have a city that's 52% minority and you have 13,000 police officers and only 3,000 are black. There's no way that a city that is fair in its ethics has a fire department that consists of 3,000 firefighters, only 400 of them are black, in a city that's 52% minority. There's no way I would sit on the city council and not be a voice to speak out and hold a press conference and challenge the mayor, Ed Burke, and everyone else to write these laws to find out if we have laws on the books to say to work for the city, you have to live in the city. How come we don't have laws on the books to say to live in this city, the hiring practice should be made up of the racial makeup of the city? So I would be the strongest voice. Believe me, if you see the coach on TV crying loud, spare not, wait till I get to city council. I'm going to cry louder than you ever heard me cry about the injustice of this city, the way they administer things in the city.
Ethics is a very important topic because that affects us all. What I would do, I believe in clear, total transparency. We should have this information online, available to everyone. Who is hired, how they got hired. We need to know if they're putting up a building, we should know who the contractors are and follow the money trail of who they gave money to, what political organizations that they gave money to. We also need to take a closer look at nepotism. People hiring one's sons and daughters and family members. That has been eating the city of Chicago up for the last over 50 years. I would like to have that online because we need to definitely take a look at where the money is going and who is related to who. And that has a lot to do with ethics.
Okay, my next question. Chicago's tax increment financing districts, or TIF districts. These TIF districts raise about $500 million a year, which is spent outside of the normal city budgeting process in order to promote economic development. But these funds have been largely spent primarily at the discretion of the mayor. Do you believe that TIF dollars have been spent wisely? And if not, how do you believe that the city council ought to play and the public a larger role in deciding how our TIF dollars are spent?
Give me all the trick questions, huh? Well, first of all, let me say this about TIF dollars. I think it's the biggest ripoff of the taxpayers ever invented in the history of the state of Illinois. You have tax dollars, TIF dollars that's supposed to be tax increment dollars that's supposed to go in blighted communities. It has been used to develop downtown. TIF dollars has been used to give the new Big Ten network $3 million. That doesn't benefit the 34th Ward. That doesn't benefit the West Side. That don't benefit deteriorated communities. All it's done is robbed our tax base for the city to say we're $700 million in debt when you're taking $500 million out of TIF dollars to give to the mayor's family, friends, and so on and so forth. I think those TIF dollars ought to go back into the tax base, and I think we need to stop playing games and really know what those TIF dollars are really used for. They're not used to benefit our community. They're used to benefit communities that don't look like us and take dollars out of our community.
I believe that we should use some of those TIF dollars for our young men and women, children. They don't have anywhere to go after school. It would be nice for them to have a complex to go to that's in their neighborhood where they can learn something, where they can actually do something with their time after school. It's the reason why the crime rate is so high in the 34th Ward and the surrounding area. It's because a lot of our young men and women, they just don't have anything to do and they don't have any structure outside of school. It would be nice if they had structure, not just at home, at school, but when they leave school, they have somewhere to go, where they have to be somewhere on time, and they do something constructive that they will be able to use later in life. We have millions of dollars of TIF dollars that are being utilized each and every year, but I never hear anything about them building a complex for children or for young men and women. Thank you.
Yes. For the most part, our TIF funds for the last 3 or 4 years now have been spent between Halsted and 119th and Halsted, all the way back to Marshfield and Vincent.